Ok, otra vez aquí estamos en el capítulo número 4. And since the last lesson on vocabulary was so long, we're going to keep this one short and simple. We're going to review one thing basically only, and that's the verb ir. Ir is super common verb in Spanish. It means to go, and many of you have already been using that in your sentences because it has some super useful translations. It is an irregular verb, even though when you look at it, it doesn't look that irregular from the beginning. It's irregular because the verb itself is IR. And so if you take off the IR ending, you're left with nada, with nothing. So instead of just adding O and anyway, so we put a V in front of it, and then we add the endings that are typical for an AR verb. So that's why it is irregular. The yo form, instead of having just an O, vo, doesn't really work. So we added a Y, just like with ser, we say soy. With ir, we say voy. So the conjugation in the present tense of the verb ir is yo voy, tú vas, usted, él, ella, va, nosotros vamos, vosotros, vosotras vais, and ustedes, ellos, y ellas van. So again, it looks pretty regular following the AR conjugations, but it's irregular because it's an IR verb, and then because of the yo form. Notice that there's no accent on the vosotros form. I know we don't spend a lot of time with that, but if you think about that just for a second, why would there be no accent on the A in the vosotros form? And the reason is that the vosotros form is pronounced vais. Since it's only one syllable, the accent goes on that syllable. Because it ends in an S, because the vosotros forms end in S, most of them will have that accent to break the rule where the accent comes on the second to the last syllable to make the accent on the last syllable. But again, in a one-syllable word, no importa, it doesn't matter. So again, we look at the different ways of conjugating this, and we have the way that makes sense for me. So, clase, repitan, por favor. Yo voy. Tú vas. Usted va. Él va. Ella va. Nosotros vamos. Vosotros vais. Ustedes van. Ellos van. Ellas van. Okay, so pretty simple. Voy, vas, va, vamos, vais, van. So now we're going to do a practice. You're going to number your papers from 1 through 12. You're going to conjugate the verb ir in the present tense for each of these 12 different subjects. So pause, give your answer, and then come back and look at it. Okay. Número 1. Ya está ahí puesto. Ellos van. Número 2. Clase, repitan. Yo voy. Número 3. Tu novio va. Adela, that's a she, right? That's the third person singular. Va. Adela va. Número 5. Mi prima y yo, that's a nosotros, vamos. Número 6. Tú vas. Número 7. Ustedes van. Número 8. Nosotros vamos. Número 9. Usted va. 10. Nosotras vamos. Número 11. Miguel, that's an él, right? He va. Y número 12. Ellas van. Okay? If you didn't get those right, again, pause it, rewind, review the conjugations in the present tense of the verb ir, and come back and do those again. You'll want to be able to conjugate this just off the top of your head. Okay, one thing that's super common with the verb ir, and I would say super common to the point where I can think of very few exceptions, is that it's followed by the preposition a, which means to go. And if you think about how we use to go in English, the same thing, I'm going to the store, I'm going to do this, I'm going to say this. So the verb to go in English is usually followed by to. The exceptions that I can think of are things like if you add an adverb to it, you need to go quickly. You're not showing the intent of going somewhere or doing something. You're using adverb to describe it. So ir is often used with the preposition a. voy a la tienda. Okay, so we have ir a, we still have the nouns, we still need our article in front of it. Voy a la tienda. When the a is followed by the definite article el, now notice that's el without the accent, right? That's the el that means the. Then we have our second contraction in Spanish. We have a plus el equals al. So we don't say voy a el mercado. We write it as one word, voy al mercado. And if the a is followed by other definite articles, la, las, los, then it doesn't. There's no contraction. The contraction is only with a plus el. So in the white box, voy al parque con Juan. Mis amigos van a las montañas. So we make the contraction with a and el, and we don't with the other articles. Now, the super easy way of expressing going to do something is to use ir and then a, and then the infinitive. Remember now, the a has to be with ir. The infinitive itself means to eat, to go, to speak, right? So this a is not because of the infinitive. The a is because of ir. It's a small, maybe it doesn't even really matter to you. But we've usually seen in other verbs that we don't put a, like with desear, deseo comer. We don't say deseo a comer because the to eat is included in the infinitive. But with ir, the a follows ir. So it's not there because of the infinitive. It's there because of the verb ir. So we use ir, a plus infinitive to talk about actions that are going to happen in the future. So it really is a simple future tense. It's a way of projecting something into the future without having to conjugate the verb into the future form. Ir a. Okay, so again, it's a super easy way of expressing something that's going to be happening in the future. So ir plus infinitive. I'm going to go to the class. Voy a ir a la clase, which is funny because we have, just like anything that's going to go, voy a ir a la clase. So va a leer el periódico. He's going to read the newspaper. Van a pasear por el pueblo. They're going to walk around town. So the subject, the conjugation of the form ir, a, the new infinitive, is a way of expressing the present tense. Vamos plus the infinitive can be used to express the idea of let's go do something. So I'm actually going to put a link here in Moodle to a famous song from the 80s that none of you were alive for, but it's a catchy little tune. So vamos a pasear, let's take a stroll. If you put the upside down ¿cómo se llama? The exclamation points before and after, then it really is, it gives it more emphasis. Let's do this, let's see. It's like saying anyway, it's just adding emphasis to the thing. So look at these two examples we have down the bottom box in the blue. Let's study Spanish and let's listen to the music. Just think through that. How would you express those two ideas in Español? Let's study Spanish. Vamos a estudiar español. So if you have it without the accent, it's really going to say we're going to study Spanish. But when you put with the exclamation points, it's adding that emphasis to it. So let's study Spanish. Let's listen to music. Vamos a escuchar la música. So again, the upside down and the right side up exclamation points make all the difference here in the emphasis that's being placed. And so instead of saying we are going to, we're saying let's. It's almost like we're commanding ourselves to go do something. Okay, so some great ways of using the verb ir in the present tense. Hope that's made sense. Again, just short because we're only reviewing this one verb, but this coupled with all the vocabulary that you looked at in 4.0 will give you a great head start on being able to say a lot of different things. The last part is just to remember that because ir has to have that a, when you're asking where, the a leaves ir and goes in front with the word a donde. So donde means where. Excuse me. A donde means to where. So that's that a is still going to be the present with the verb ir, but it's going to be in front of the sentence as part of the question word. So this is 5 examples here for you. To number your papers, and you're going to take the prompts like La Señora Castillo and Centro, and you're going to say where she is going. You're going to form a sentence out of these prompts. And this is a model of what you'll see on the quizzes here. So take a second, pause, and then come right back. and see how you did with these questions. Okay, so sorry, I got this thing in my throat this morning. So aquí vamos en número 1, la señora Castillo y el centro. To make that into a sentence, we combine it. La señora Castillo va al centro. Al, because it's A plus L, ¿verdad? Número 2, las hermanas Gómez, la piscina. Las hermanas Gómez van a la piscina. Número 3, tu tío y tu papá, el partido de fútbol. Tu tío y tu papá van al partido de fútbol. Otra vez, A más él equals al. Número 4, yo, el Museo de Arte Moderno. Yo voy al Museo de Arte Moderno. Y número 5, nosotros, el restaurante Miramar. Nosotros vamos al restaurante Miramar. Okay? Once again, if whatever concepts you didn't understand, go back, review, come back and look at these again. And as always, come join me on Zoom Tuesdays at 3 o'clock, and I'm happy to explain this to you one-on-one. Okay? Pues espero que les hayan entendido. Any questions or things that didn't make clear, to shoot me an email, come on Zoom, let me know. But this is a great help in your arsenal for Español. Muy bien, gracias.